I was standing alone in the empty conference room when I realized his hand was still holding mine. Not in a professional way. Not in a casual way. It was warm, steady, and trembling just enough to scare me. The door was closed. The lights were dim. And in that silence, I understood something that would change everything. My boss's son wasn't just looking at me anymore. He was choosing me. And that choice was dangerous. I pulled my hand away too fast, my heart racing like I'd been caught doing something forbidden. He apologized immediately, his voice low, almost broken, but the damage was already done. Because the truth was, I felt it too. And the worst part wasn't that I wanted him. It was knowing exactly who he was. Everything that followed started long before that moment. Before the lingering looks. Before the tension that made every room feel smaller. Before I started lying to myself. When I first got the job, I thought I'd finally escaped my dark past. A new company. A powerful family-owned firm. A salary that promised stability. I told myself this was my chance to start over, to bury the parts of my life no one knew about. Family secrets have a way of shaping you, even when you pretend they don't exist. I was good at pretending. My boss was respected, feared, admired. A man who built an empire from nothing. He rarely smiled, rarely spoke about anything personal. When he hired me, he barely looked up from my resume. I didn't matter to him as a person. I was a function. And honestly, that made things easier. The first time I saw his son, it was brief. He walked past my desk without stopping, phone pressed to his ear, confidence in every step. There was something guarded about him, like he'd learned early not to trust anyone. I noticed him, but I didn't think about him. Not then. Weeks passed. Late nights. Deadlines. Pressure that kept me sharp and exhausted. He started appearing more often, sitting in on meetings, challenging his father's decisions in ways no one else dared. The tension between them was palpable. A silent war built on expectations and disappointment. I watched it all from the sidelines, invisible. Or so I thought. One night, I stayed late to finish a report. The office was almost empty when he stopped by my desk. He asked if I was okay, if I needed help. Simple words, but said with genuine concern. I remember feeling surprised by how easy it was to talk to him. We laughed quietly, shared small frustrations. Nothing inappropriate. Nothing dangerous. Yet something shifted. After that, he started finding excuses to talk to me. Asking my opinion. Inviting me into discussions I wasn't supposed to be part of. I told myself it was professional respect. I needed to believe that. Because the alternative was terrifying. I knew the rules. I knew the power imbalance. I knew the consequences. Falling for the boss's son wasn't just a bad idea. It was career suicide. But desire doesn't announce itself loudly. It creeps in, disguised as connection, as understanding. As feeling seen. There were moments when I caught him watching me when he thought I wasn't looking. Moments when his voice softened only with me. Moments when my phone lit up late at night with his name, and I hesitated before answering, already guilty. Each time, I told myself I'd stop. Each time, I didn't. The first time he confided in me, it felt intimate in a way that scared me more than touch ever could. He talked about growing up in a house where love was conditional. Where success mattered more than happiness. Where mistakes were remembered forever. I listened, nodding, recognizing pieces of myself in his words. That was the beginning of the real danger. Because when you share pain, you build a bond that's hard to break. I tried distancing myself. I became colder, more formal. He noticed immediately. One afternoon, he cornered me near the elevators, asking what he'd done wrong. His eyes weren't angry. They were hurt. That look haunted me. I told him nothing had changed. It was a lie. Everything had changed. The company gossip machine started humming quietly. Lingering glances noticed. Conversations cut short when I entered a room. I felt eyes on me constantly. Paranoia became my shadow. Every smile from him felt like betrayal. Every moment apart felt like relief and loss at the same time. And then there was his father. My boss had a way of observing without revealing anything. One day, he called me into his office. Asked about my performance. Complimented my dedication. Then, without warning, he asked how I felt about loyalty. The word hung in the air like a threat. I answered carefully, my heart pounding. He nodded, unreadable. I left his office shaken, convinced he knew something. Or worse, that he suspected everything. That night, I couldn't sleep. Memories from my past resurfaced. Secrets I'd buried. Relationships that ended in betrayal. I'd promised myself I'd never put my future in someone else's hands again. Yet here I was, doing exactly that. The turning point came during a company event. Elegant. Formal. Full of smiles that hid hidden truths. I wore a dress I barely recognized myself in. He couldn't stop looking at me. When our eyes met across the room, the noise faded. For a moment, it felt like we were the only two people there. That illusion shattered when his father joined us. The tension was unbearable. His father's gaze moved between us, sharp and calculating. He asked how we knew each other so well. We both answered too quickly. Too defensively. I felt exposed. Vulnerable. Trapped. Later that night, he found me outside, away from the music and the lights. That's when he told me he couldn't pretend anymore. That he was falling for me. That he knew it was complicated. Dangerous. But real. I should have walked away. I knew that. Instead, I stood there, my heart screaming louder than my reason. I told him the truth I'd been avoiding, that I felt the same. And that scared me more than anything. We didn't kiss. We didn't touch. But that confession sealed our fate. After that, everything intensified. Stolen moments. Conversations loaded with meaning. The line between right and wrong blurred until I couldn't see it anymore. I was living inside a forbidden relationship, one built on secrecy and fear. Every laugh felt borrowed. Every promise felt fragile. What I didn't know was that the real betrayal hadn't even begun yet. That the company, his family, and my own past were all moving toward a collision I couldn't stop. A shocking discovery was waiting, one that would force me to question who he really was, and who I was to him. And that moment, in the empty conference room, when he held my hand and everything felt too real to deny, was only the beginning. I didn't realize how fragile my world had become until it started collapsing in silence. After that night in the conference room, nothing felt stable anymore. Every sound in the office made me jump. Every email felt like it carried a hidden meaning. Loving him wasn't dramatic or loud. It was quiet, heavy, and full of fear. We agreed to keep our distance at work. No lingering looks. No private conversations. No messages during office hours. On paper, it sounded manageable. In reality, it was torture. The more we tried to act like nothing was happening, the more everything inside me screamed. What I didn't know was that his father had already started digging. It began subtly. Meetings I was suddenly excluded from. Tasks reassigned without explanation. A change in my boss's tone when he spoke to me. He wasn't cold. He was polite. And that was worse. Politeness meant calculation. It meant control. One afternoon, I overheard a conversation I was never meant to hear. Two executives whispering near the break room, my name mentioned between pauses. They stopped when they saw me, smiled, walked away. My stomach dropped. That's when I understood something dangerous. I was no longer invisible. That night, I told his son everything. My fear. My suspicion. The way his father's eyes seemed to follow me even when he wasn't in the room. He went quiet. Too quiet. And when he finally spoke, his voice carried a weight I hadn't heard before. He told me his father never forgave disloyalty. Not in business. Not in family. Not ever. There was something else in his expression. Guilt. Hesitation. I asked him what he wasn't saying. He tried to brush it off, but I pushed. I needed honesty. That's when he told me a truth that cracked something inside me. His father had already chosen someone for him. A woman from a powerful family. Strategic. Perfect on paper. A merger disguised as a relationship. He'd been resisting it for months. And now, I wasn't just a secret. I was an obstacle. The word burned. I told him I didn't want to be the reason he destroyed his life. He told me I was the only thing that felt real in it. That answer should have comforted me. Instead, it filled me with dread. Because real things are the easiest to destroy. The next few weeks were unbearable. His father announced the partnership publicly. The engagement rumors spread through the company like wildfire. People congratulated him in hallways. Smiled at me with pity I didn't understand yet. I felt like I was watching my own erasure in real time. Then came the night everything changed. I was working late again when my boss called me into his office. The building was almost empty. The city lights reflected off the glass walls, making the room feel exposed. He didn't ask me to sit. He didn't raise his voice. He simply told me he knew. He knew about the looks. The messages. The tension. He told me he'd watched my career closely. That he admired my intelligence. My discipline. And then he asked me why I thought I was special enough to break his rules. I couldn't speak. That's when he revealed the hidden truth I never expected. He knew who I really was. Where I came from. The part of my dark past I'd spent years running from. The family connection I'd hidden. The mistake that had forced me to change my name, my city, my life. He'd known since the day he hired me. I felt exposed in a way I can't fully explain. Like my skin had been peeled back. He told me my past made me predictable. Vulnerable. Easy to control. And then he gave me a choice. Leave the company quietly, with a generous severance and my secret intact. Or stay, and end whatever was happening with his son immediately. I walked out of his office shaking. My entire future reduced to an ultimatum. I wanted to run. To disappear again. But something inside me snapped. I was tired of being controlled by fear. Tired of letting other people decide what I deserved. I went straight to his son. When I told him everything, his face went pale. He was angry. Furious. But beneath that anger was something else. Fear. Because this time, the betrayal wasn't just emotional. It was blood deep. Family deep. He told me his father had done this before. Manipulated people. Destroyed relationships to maintain power. And for the first time, he said something that terrified me. He said he was ready to walk away from everything. The company. The inheritance. The name. I told him not to. I couldn't be the reason he lost his family. But he looked at me and said his family had been lost a long time ago. That loving me wasn't the mistake. Letting fear control him was. That night, we crossed a line we could never uncross. Not out of impulse. Out of decision. Out of knowing the consequences and choosing each other anyway. It felt like freedom and doom wrapped together. The fallout was immediate. His father disowned him publicly. The engagement was called off in a storm of rumors and accusations. I resigned the next day. No severance. No protection. Just my dignity and a future full of uncertainty. We left the city together. No plan. No guarantees. Just the truth between us. But here's the part no one talks about. Love doesn't erase damage. It doesn't magically heal a lifetime of control, secrets, and betrayal. We fought. We doubted. There were nights when fear crept back in, whispering that we'd made the wrong choice. That love wasn't enough. And yet, we stayed. Not because it was easy. Because it was honest. Sometimes I still think about the life I almost lived. The safety I almost chose. The silence I almost accepted. And I wonder how many people are living inside choices they never questioned. If you've ever loved someone you weren't supposed to, if you've ever been forced to choose between safety and truth, then you understand why I'm telling you this. Because some secrets destroy you when you keep them. And others only reveal who you really are. If this story made you feel something, stay with me. Subscribe, like, and tell me in the comments what choice you would have made. Some stories don't end when the video does, they continue in the people who listen.